there's not so much about it you could do. Out the window, skies, oh skies are falling. But the last thing you would want is something new.
Just called President Obama.
And I promised him that I wouldn't call him back this time.
I was thinking on the way down in the elevator, tomorrow will be the first time in my life I don't have anything to do.
My congratulations to Senator Kennedy for his fine race in this campaign, and to all of you. I am sure his supporters are just as enthusiastic as you are for me, and I thank you for that.
I have lost. Mr. Nixon has won. The democratic process has worked its will. So now let's get on with the urgent task of uniting our country.
We will shed no tears because all of this effort, I am positive, will bear fruit for years to come.
I want to assure you that you have my complete and wholehearted support as you take the oath of office this January.
I've not achieved all I set out to do. Perhaps no one ever does. But we have faced the tough issues. We've stood for and we've fought for and we have achieved some very important goals for our country.
We didn't win, but we made history, and that fight has just begun.
There is nothing you can do in this world more fulfilling and more satisfying than giving of yourself to others and making a contribution to your community and your state and your nation and your fellow citizens.
I remain absolutely convinced that we are a rising nation. We have been in an extraordinarily difficult period, but do not be deterred, kept away from public service by the smoke and fire of a campaign year or the ugliness of politics.
Well, I leave you all tonight with a full heart and a fervent prayer that we'll meet again and we will meet often.
This has been an extraordinary election, but in one of God's unforeseen paths, this belatedly broken impasse can point us all to a new common ground, for its very closeness can serve to remind us that we are one people with a shared history and a shared destiny.
In an American election, there are no losers, because whether or not our candidates are successful, the next morning we all wake up as Americans.
This is an historic election, and I recognize the special significance it has for African Americans and for the special pride that must be theirs tonight.
I so wish that I had been able to fulfill your hopes to lead the country in a different direction, but the nation chose another leader, and so Ann and I join with you to earnestly pray for him and for this great nation.
Tonight, for the first time, I am releasing my official birth video.
There's not so much about it you could do. Out the window, skies, oh skies are falling. But the last thing you would want is something new.
That was a joke. That was not my real birth video. That was a children's cartoon. Call Disney if you don't believe me. They have the original long-form version. There is a vicious rumor floating around that I think could really hurt Mitt Romney. I heard he passed universal health care when he was governor of Massachusetts. Someone should get to the bottom of that. And I know just the guy to do it. Donald Trump is here tonight.
I've already decisively won many critical states, including massive victories in Florida, Iowa, Indiana, Ohio. To name just a few, we won these and many other victories despite historic election interference from big media, big money, and big tech. As everybody saw, we won by historic numbers. And the pollsters got it knowingly wrong. They got it knowingly wrong. We had polls that were so ridiculous, and everybody knew it at the time. There was no blue wave that they predicted. They thought there was going to be a big blue wave. That was false. That was done for suppression reasons. But instead, there was a big red wave, and it's been properly acknowledged, actually, by the media. They were, I think, very impressed, but that was after the fact. That doesn't do us any good. We kept the Senate despite having twice as many seats to defend as Democrats, and in a really much more competitive states, we did a fantastic job with the Senate. I think we're very proud of what's happened there. We had many more seats to defend. They spent almost $200 million on Senate races in South Carolina and Kentucky alone, 2 races, and hundreds of millions of dollars overall against us. At the national level, our opponents' major donors were Wall Street bankers and special interests. Our major donors were police officers, farmers, everyday citizens. Yet for the first time ever, we lost 0 races in the House. I was talking to Kevin McCarthy today. He said he couldn't believe it. 0 races. Very unusual thing, 0. And actually won many new seats with, I think, many more on the way. This was also the year of the Republican woman. More Republican women were elected to Congress than ever before. That's a great achievement. I won the largest share of non-white voters of any Republican in 60 years, including historic numbers of Latino, African American, Asian American, and Native American voters, the largest ever in our history. We grew our party by 4 million voters, the greatest turnout in Republican Party history. Democrats are the party of the big donors, the big media, the big tech, it seems, and Republicans have become the party of the American worker, and that's what's happened. And we're also, I believe, the party of inclusion. As everyone now recognizes, media polling was election interference in the truest sense of that word by powerful special interests. These really phony polls, I have to call them phony polls, fake polls, were designed to keep our voters at home, create the illusion of momentum for Mr. Biden, and diminish Republicans' ability to raise funds. They were what's called suppression polls. Everyone knows that now. And it's never been used to the extent that it's been used on this last election. To highlight just a few examples, the day before election, Quinnipiac, which was wrong on every occasion that I know of, had Joe Biden up by 5 points in Florida, and they were off by 8.4 points, and I won Florida easily. So they had me losing Florida by a lot, and I ended up winning Florida by a lot. Other than that, they were very accurate. They had him up 4 points in Ohio, and they were off by 12.2 points. And they also won Ohio, great state of Ohio, very easily. The Washington Post said Biden up 17 points in Wisconsin, and it was basically even. They were off by about 17 points. And they knew that. They're not stupid people. They knew that. Suppression. There are now only a few states yet to be decided in the presidential race. The voting apparatus of those states are run in all cases by Democrats. We were winning in all the key locations by a lot, actually. And then our numbers started miraculously getting whittled away in secret. And they wouldn't allow legally permissible observers. We went to court in a couple of instances, and we were able to get the observers put in. And when the observers got there, they wanted them 60, 70 feet away, 80 feet, 100 feet away, or outside the building to observe people inside the building. And we won a case, a big case, and we have others happening. There are lots of litigation, even beyond our litigation. There's tremendous amount of litigation generally because of how unfair this process was. And I predicted that. I've been talking about mail-in voting for a long time. It's really destroyed our system. It's a corrupt system. And it makes people corrupt even if they aren't by nature. That they become corrupt. It's too easy. They want to find out how many votes they need, and then they seem to be able to find them. They wait, and then they find them. And you see that on election night. We were ahead in vote in North Carolina by a lot, tremendous number of votes. And we're still ahead by a lot, but not as many, because they're finding ballots all of a sudden. Oh, we have some mail-in ballots. It's amazing how those mail-in ballots are so one-sided, too. I know that it's supposed to be to the advantage of the Democrats, but in all cases, they're so one-sided.
We're watching President Trump speaking live from the White House, and we have to interrupt here because the president has made a number of false statements, including the notion that there has been fraudulent voting. There has been no evidence of that. Allegations by his campaign, but his campaign spokespeople unable to provide any evidence. He also has suggested that the polls, and many of which were incorrect, were somehow the product of election interference. Chuck Todd, Andrew Mitchell with me here. Hate to cut away from the president.
No, but look, he's trying to set a narrative, and he's even admitting that it was a narrative he was beginning to set before the election. Remember, I've been talking about these mail-in votes.
Everything is good when we are one, and you feel it coming. It's not so much about it's good when we are one. Skies are falling. The last thing you would want is something away, and I obey when we are one.
Every other U.S. president in modern times has done so. Now, the New York Times has obtained some of his tax filings, and they reveal Trump avoided paying federal tax for 10 of the last 15 years, in part because he lost more money than he made. The paper says he's better at playing a business mogul than being one. Jackson Prosco explains what else Trump's returns reveal.
With his secretive finances thrust into the spotlight, President Donald Trump is left insisting he's the wealthy mogul he's always claimed to be.
They treat me very badly. You have people in the IRS that they treat me very, very badly.
Years worth of Trump's tax records obtained by the New York Times show how he managed to pay just $750 per year in federal taxes in both 2016 and 2017. He paid nothing in 10 of the previous 15 years. Business losses drove down his taxes, so did potentially questionable tax deductions, like the $70,000 Trump claimed for his own personal hairstyling, and consulting fees allegedly paid to members of his own family.
There are a lot of things in the return that kind of fit the typical profile of someone who is evading their taxes, who is illegally paying too little.
Trump is taking advantage of many of the tax loopholes used by other wealthy Americans. For any other person, the story might end there. But the Times reports the president has $421 million in loans that he personally guaranteed, bills that come due during the next 4 years, what could be Trump's second term in office.
Anytime you have a government employee, certainly at a high level, who owes a lot of money to some unknown entity or entities, that could be some reason to put pressure, some leverage to put pressure on them.
The massive debts and money-losing Trump-branded properties call into question whose interests Trump is serving while in office. Notably, there are no links to Russia exposed by the tax documents, but other foreign governments like Turkey have at times withheld business from Trump's companies or lavished patronage, depending on the status of official relations with the U.S.
Jackson, is this likely to do anything to shake up the presidential election?
Well, Donna, just more than 35 days out from that election, polls show about 90% of eligible voters have already made up their minds about who they're voting for. That other 10% could be persuaded in part by something like this.
But remember, Donald Trump has a reputation for being almost Teflon. It was this time at the 2016 election that the Access Hollywood tape dropped. He went on to win the presidency. But Donna, expect this issue to factor big in tomorrow night's first presidential debate.
Not so much about it you could do. Out the window, skies, oh skies are falling. But the last thing you would want is something new.